Long gone are the days of waiting to be seen in a doctor's office only to have that awkward conversation with your healthcare provider. Wisp gives you access to sexual and reproductive healthcare from the comfort of your home. Get treatment for BV, yeast infections, UTIs, and much more delivered directly to your home or ready for pickup at your local pharmacy in less than 3 hours. The best part? Wisp is discreet, convenient, and you don't need medical insurance to receive care or prescription medication. Visit us today at hellowisp.com.
Mochi Health is a long-term weight loss solution personalized to fit your unique needs and goals. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who are on a mission to listen. Eligible patients can access custom-formulated GLP-1 medications at an affordable, set price and get them delivered to their home each month. No insurance required, FSA and HSA accepted. With 24/7 customer service available, Mochi Health is here to partner with you on your journey to a healthier life. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com.
I can get it on the other side.
Ah, there you go.
There you go.
This is A block, but they were in D block, right?
Yes. Yeah, this was one of the prime areas because people could look at, whoever was in these cells, they had the perfect view of the bay. So this was like prime real estate here. Very few, I guess, as far as I know, John and Clarence never got to this side.
Yeah.
It's just so strange being here. Oh gosh, yeah, I have never been down in that section.
So is this the catacombs?
Yeah, this is the entrance, and we're pointing out that this is the old part of the prison that has the flat metal bars, so it got replaced with the round tubular metal that you see when you're walking down Broadway.
This is what the military prison for the Pacific prison was created. When this place was open, it was for the gold rush. To put a defensive barrier for the gold rush for people that are trying to come in by boat to Sacramento. 1848, gold was discovered. 1849, 49ers start showing up to San Francisco. They can become a population of like 300 to 20,000 overnight. And there's multiple different boats from different countries and different slips in San Francisco. And there's a lot of American flags being flown when this was just a territory, at Mexico, basically. And so eventually, gold rush is happening. The word of gold about reaching into the rivers of California and pulling out these nuggets. I mean, it was huge. And so, big population. 1850, U.S. government's like, yep, we got to make this a state. So they immediately make this a state. They give documentation, I believe, to this, people who Mexico are like, hey, this is now. This is California. This is the state of California. This is part of the United States now. You can stay, or you're going to have to move to different borders. The new borders of what you have to go move across the new borders of the new state of California. Very frustrating for people. Other states are a lot more violent. Okay, California was a little bit more peaceful about it. But what happens is this becomes a military fortress. Now they're concerned about. They immediately put documentation to put Fort Alcatraz down to protect California and its goal. They were going to do a line point gun battery of some sort. On the Sausalito side, that ends up becoming Fort Baker later on, right? And so they wanted this triangular action of defense. It wasn't instantaneous, it took 7 years. So in order to put buildings here, they had to put a lighthouse. So we had the first lighthouse on the entire West Coast. And then after that, buildings start being created by the military. They immediately start dynamiting all the edges and stuff, so that the only access to this island is the dock that we arrived on. Even as a tour boat every 30 minutes, that is the only access to the island, really. And so they started making the roads, started making the buildings, putting it, and then by 1860s, we've got cannons all the way around. 1860s or Civil War. And so this is a big military fortress. California, there was a lot of butting of heads between beliefs for North and South. I think at one point, Southern California, the concept was that they were going to make it Colorado. Okay, and make it, hey, Southern California is going to be for slaves. And they tried it for a minute, and it didn't quite work out, right? So, but this became a big military fortress. This had a 3-story building, and that's the building that you're looking at right there. The first floor was a basement protected by a dry moat. The second floor was pretty much the entrance and exits to this building, and it had drawbridges, and the way the compass is on this place. On the north and it's more north and more south side of this building, right? And so these drawbridges would drop over these dry moats. Infantry would come in. It was ready for a big attack that never happened. They would be waiting for the whites of their eyes to come up over this defensive fortress, and there would be gun-slit windows and things in this building. They'd be able to withstand a siege for 4 months, waiting for the military to come from D.C. all the way around. It was an incredible fortress, but it was totally obsolete when it was made. By this time, metal siding is being placed on boats and ships and things. The cannons didn't have the rifling on the inside. So the second Fort Point and Fort Alcatraz were created, it was pretty much, it was obsolete, basically. So nobody attacked this place. The first jail was at Sallyport when you walked in. Jail number 2 and number 3 was at Electrical Shop. The red brick foundation is some of the bits and pieces of that prison, is where military, made these, made the roads, made these buildings. When the bricks look really organized, it's probably Army Corps of Engineers. Army Corps Engineers. And then over time, they kept getting more and more prisoners. Why? These military soldiers would go on break, right? It's time for you to go take a break, whatever. So they go on leave. And they'll go hunt for gold. They go look for gold. They find these gold flakes, and they're like, "Why am I working in a fortress when I can just go pan for gold?" Well, the military goes, finds them, brings them back here, and those are the first prisoners for Alcatraz. And so they were in that little Sallyport. Later on, they kept getting more and more people, and so then we had prison number 2 and number 3 was that Electrical Shop. It was heated by coal, it was lit by oil lamp. It was going to they thought it was going to catch on fire. It did. Okay. And eventually they're like, yeah, this is no good. We need to do something better. We keep getting more prisoners. This is not a real good military defensive fortress. Because they definitely demonstrated their might in 1876 after their 100-year celebration. They put a barge, a bunch of stuff that'll go boom, and they invited the military and everybody around to watch this barge just go, and it didn't happen. They were firing at the thing for a couple of hours. They said, "Hey, captain," or whatever, "get in that boat, go sail out there, make it explode so the people are happy." So they go row out there, and they probably light this long fuse, row back, this thing explodes, and everybody's happy, but the military is not. They're like, "We need to make this a jail. So what they do is they chop the top two floors of the citadel fortress, and they put basically a Tupperware container over the top, a nice solid floor, okay? Trapping all the years of moisture and stuff into this dungeon down below. And 1909, they are putting up these skeletons and stuff, and the original lighthouse is a 2-story, almost like East Coast style lighthouse, the first lighthouse. It's that thing right there. And so the beams that they're putting up, and they're comparing the beams to the level of this lighthouse, it's just not going to work. We need something better for navigation. And so 1909, the iconic one that you see, the lighthouse that you see out in 1909, has been running since 1909. 1912, this is done. Military, prisoners created the walls. It was the largest cement structure, I don't know, in the U.S. maybe, built by prisoners. I mean, for like a minute. Okay, it becomes quickly, this fortress. And so if you walk through World War I, so 1913, 14, yeah. So you're walking through here. This is what the entire prison would have looked like. A block, B block, C block, D block, all looked like this. And for military prisoners, it was only for the Army branch. And so they would get these prisoners and stuff, and they'd probably be trying to escape or whatever. They converted the down below here, the storage that was for 4 months of provisions, into dungeons. They put a window, which would have been useless because it would have been dark there, walls, and one door. And inmates would be placed in there for punishment. And we'll go into a little bit there, but we're going to go, when we go downstairs, we'll talk about that. But this becomes a dungeon from pretty much 1912 when they start putting prisoners here to 1937. Wait, 1937? Wasn't the federal government working there? Yes, they were. They said, oh, it's storage. Well, later on they find out that they're still actually using this dungeon down below. So when we're going to walk down, we're walking down into the original dry moat. We're going to the left as we're walking in will be the perimeter of that first floor of that building with the gun slit windows. It's really cool. So,
wow.
Yeah. So a
little
bit of history of what
that's pretty fascinating.
That is awesome.
That's good stuff. So we're basically going in the
So we're
dungeon.
going to get hard hats on when we get
storage.
there.
Okay, cool.
Storage. We're going to storage.
Storage. Sounds like it was like one of the U.S.'s first black sites.
No, I mean, so think about it too. Like for federal government, if you're using this as your isolation cells, you escaped. You're going to go into here. I don't know what the concept was, but you had people escaping through these. You can use dental floss and filaments. There were more escapes in the military years than there was in federal penitentiary years. But this is one of the things where they use. This is a time of borax soap, maybe powdered toothpaste, right? And so if you had dental floss and toothpaste, you can make an abrasive enough to cut through these bolts to make them move like hinges. These bars are weak enough that you can just bend them all the way down.
Wow.
There are a lot of escapes, absolutely, in the military years. Federal years, I think there's only 14 escapes, and 5 of those we never seen again.
Wow. Thank you.
It's got the little knob getting to it.
Yeah, they're not the typical OSHA stairs, the measurement.
I'm glad I'm not down there living.
What is it? Let's be down
This,
here.
yeah, can you imagine if Johnny Clarence ever came down here,
They'd still be here.
This is one of the things we heard about, that they came in here supposedly and found people down in this area.
Oh yeah, there's some documentaries about people finding bodies in the dungeon area.
That did happen.
No. Yeah, gonna let you do your thing.
I just gotta find my channel.
Photobomb.
Everybody gets shot here.
You can see the remnants of steps, and if you've done any kind of construction, you can see that, hey, these are wood steps. Well, this would have been wooden steps as well. Wooden steps are really popular for a fortress because if you're infantry and you have somebody trying to attack you, right? And they're trying to they got to get to the first floor first, right? So they'd be coming up over here. Dry moats are very popular in Europe, so they would put metal, sharp stuff, riprap, sewage. Like if you fell down here, you get injured, you'd be, begging to get shot because you're going to be dying of an infection. And so the soldiers out here would, inside the fortress walls around here, would have these gun slit windows, and these are the only gun slit windows that have the still those metal curtains to protect you. So if you came down here as an enemy, these things would open up. There'd be people with muskets on the other side, firing at the enemy. Did this ever happen? No, it never did. But that was the plan. They would come up over this dry mountain, and they would have 4 months of provisions. Later on, in 1909, they put a Tupperware container over the top of this. So 1857 all the way to 1909 when they started putting a foundation over this top. That's a lot of moisture and everything else. And so when Army soldiers were placed down here for punishment, it would be a moisturized environment. There'd be a lot of lung infections and everything else. It would be very rough. Some of these people would be high cuffed. Can you imagine what kind of prisoner, what you would have to do to be placed in something like this? And so let's walk a little bit further here. And these are the storage units that later on became dungeons. There's 4 on this side, and it's like a mirror. And so on the opposite side, there's 4 on the opposite side. One prisoner would be placed in here with a bucket for food, a bucket for waste. Maybe they were the same bucket. I don't know. That's one thing that I'm still trying to figure out, whether they had 2 different buckets or it was just one for waste and food. I don't know. So they put walls on this thing. The second they put a covering over the top, this was exposed by rain. So people would be placed high-cuffed. For 14 days for the military. For the federal years, it was 19 days. So for 14 days, maybe for the whole day, they'd have their arms up over their head, high cuffed to the bars on the doors. And when it was time to let them go, they said, hey, this all ends. Who knows? Maybe they're military. Either they pulled buttons off of officers, or the military uniforms were folded nicely right in their cell. This all ends once you choose to wear that uniform. So again, who would be the people that would be placed in here? What would you think? What would you have to do to be placed and have this kind of punishment done to you?
Probably murderers.
Murder, okay. Murder.
I would think it would be a lighter sentence, like if you tried to, leave your post, fall asleep on duty. Disrespecting an officer. Sure. That could have been maybe whistling, because there was a time where there was just absolute silence. You had to think about what you did. Even in the beginning of the federal years, there was this idea of silence. You had to be, think about your punishment while you're here. That ended in the federal penitentiary. I don't know what the military exactly was like, but. You'd think like spies, or people who give away government secrets, like Martin Sobel. But no, there was a group of Hutterites or Mennonites. They're kind of like the Amish. They're very peaceful, plain folk. They're from, I believe, Europe. And eventually they came around, and at one point the president was. The president that was in charge at that time said, hey, you guys do an amazing job farming. Why didn't you come here? I forgot which state. But you're really great at farming and things. But we need to fill out a military card and things too, right? No. You don't need to do that. I've basically said, no, you're not going to get in trouble. And oh, cool. So they start living here. They start, not here, but in the U.S., building their farms and things. And over time, I think things change, rules change. And at one point, the government's like, hey guys, you didn't fill out your draft card. But we were told that we didn't need to fill out a draft card. Well, no, it's part of the rules. When you're an adult, or you gotta fill out this draft card, and then it's your job to work for the military or fight for the military. When you get called in, well, you didn't fill out your card. Well, that's against our beliefs. Well, and we were approved by this particular president. And they're like, no, that's not in place anymore. You're under arrest. So they get brought here. They got taken to Alcatraz. Their clothes have been stripped from them. They're in maybe underwear and a t-shirt, right? As well as their dignity, right? And they get placed down here, and who knows, their military outfit here, or when they were pulled in after being high-cuffed after 14 days, and you're going to go back down the cell. No, I don't want to go. And sometimes they may have pulled their button, it's plausible too, or they use the button on their folded uniform and carved in their numbers and the days and stuff that they were here, so they could at least keep track of time. This would be lit by maybe candlelight for a moment, but when you got placed in here, this would be closed. There wouldn't be an officer guarding here. They would just blow the lights out. You'd be here in pitch black. Ooh. And so proof of this, military, federal years, they poured painted white all over this place. So we know one of these conscientious objectors' granddaughters, Philip Grosser, I think that's his name. I got so much history in my head, it's trying to remember everybody's name. The granddaughter's talking about her grandfather, right? And what happened to him and how his story and everything else that she learned. And then once she was done talking and interviewing with the Rangers or whoever she was doing this thing over, and she's like, and you could still see, the inmate numbers. 5 digits would have been military, okay? Well, as she's scanning the light, she's gross. Philip Grosser, her grandfather, she breaks down and starts crying about that she's talking about this in the actual cell that he was in for not filling out a draft card or not wanting to go into the military. Now, some of these conscientious objectors got lung infections and stuff through here. They get transferred to a different military prison in winter. It's oh my gosh. Leavenworth. Leavenworth was a military prison at this time. And so they go to Leavenworth. It's in the middle of winter. They're not wearing, warm clothes at all, I don't think. And well, these guys die of lung infections. And so they put them in coffins and they ship them back to the family. Well, one of the wives of these guys, they're like, hey, I want to see my husband before we put him underground. Can we open up the casket, please? And so they open up the casket and they look inside, and basically it's her husband wearing a military uniform. Okay, ultimate insult to this person who's in this coffin. Ultimate insult to the Hutterites and their religion and their belief. And to this day, after when they got placed into where they were buried, their grave site is actually marked martyr on it. So it's just, and then so to this day, Hutterites, I think it's Hutterites, right? Yeah. So come here, and they ask, hey, can we go see, the dungeon? So they'll come down here. We don't explain unless they ask. We don't really explain to them what this is about. They know their history, their family, or religious history here, and so they come here. They sing these beautiful hymns inside this building, in this area, because this is just basically a religious site for the,
crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, and I don't want to, it's kind of like they're very similar to maybe the Amish community, or they're very plain folk, very peaceful people, and it's just such a cool little. Yeah. I mean, this is such an amazing place with so much history. We have occupation stuff too. 1969 to 71, Native Americans occupied this place in about a year and a half, 18-month, takeover of the island, and creating a group of Native Americans of all nations. Why? Because before the U.S., before Mexico, before Spain, was the Ramaytush Ohlone Native Americans. They lived here. They thrived here in the Bay Area. And when Spain came over, they were, they went to, they worked on in the missions and everything else. They were taken from their property, their land, and moved. And then every time there was a new, all the way up to the U.S., they kept getting moved and moved and moved and moved. And this protest was like, hey, you guys took our land. We've got this Treaty of Fort Laramie. Any government agency that's not utilizing the land in which it was intended, this has been closed for 7 years. Then it goes back to the Sioux Nation. Well, these groups from Berkeley and San Francisco created a group of Native Americans of all nations. And so like, we're Sioux too, we're part of this group. So you need to give us back our land. And so they protest here. They didn't have this locked. Once this federal prison closed, they threw the keys in the bay, they kept this thing open. And so when the Native Americans came here, these were open. So they used candlelight and used that to put their political statements on the ceiling. And so what you're seeing here in this next cell, the second and third cells, are the Native American political statements utilizing the candlelight and smoke. So
That's cool.
yeah,
And you'll see larger signs of occupation as we get further in.
yeah. Sorry, I want to take a
Dungeon?
time. But yeah,
What do you think of the
here's
dungeon?
more of those.
It's scary.
Here's more of those military numbers. 9,445. I mean, 94. Well, 9,445, and then there's 10,690. 10,555. Like each of these numbers has an identity, and we're still cataloging all this. It says Willie Nelson. It might have been a relative. I joke about that a lot. But yeah, all these, and we know that they're legit. Graffiti from this time is because the federal government painted everything over in white, and so anything that's carved and you see red, that's current. That's like some guest accident, put their finger mark, engraved their fingernail or something in the paint. So again, we're walking around this old fortress. Nobody attacked this place. They opened up windows. They opened up the gun-slit windows and made these pretty, And so as the light, the morning and afternoon and evening sun would come around through the dry moats when this was open up to the sky. The walls are plastered and things. I think the furniture, since Fort Point was its sister fort, that if you walked in there and you saw all the beds and things and furniture, I think it would be similar furniture in this building as well. So it's really cool stuff. Just watch your head. All this stuff is reinforcement, and they're all tagged. These are all like 2014. Okay. At one point, I believe this is probably closed because the weight of this cell house on brick that's not like structurally sound. It was probably it's early days, but all the weight as this building is settling in, the brick and stuff is bowing and cracking, and due to the moisture and everything else, it's a lot of erosion. So at one point we had to do a lot of retrofit and reinforce work so that we can all walk around the cell house and actually admire this beautiful building. So yeah.
Your current president appreciates that.
It makes the job easier.
And this is the original coloring of the brick. The cement came from New York. I don't know where the brick was fired, but I read it somewhere and I can't remember. But over time, these are probably 3 little cells, like maybe processing cells. So as a soldier gets brought to Alcatraz, they'd probably bring them up, and maybe lieutenants or captains would have been living on this side. I'll tell you the reason why I believe that as well. They would come in, they'd say, all right, we're going to figure out where to put you. We'll put you in jail number 1, or, or whatever, down in one of the jail cells down below on the island. This was simply for our infantry and officers when this was a working fortress. There was a dark cell here as well. So you had one dark cell and two light cells, and you can see the hinges for the doors.
What do you mean by dark and light?
So dark cell would have been like the dungeon cells over here. Those weren't dungeon cells at that time. So say somebody was misbehaving, well, we're going to put you into a dark cell for a moment, but then they also had ones that light would come in through the windows as well.
When you hear Lululemon, you probably think of Align yoga pants, weightlessly soft, like you're wearing next to nothing. That's why you see them in class, at the grocery store, and in the park. But did you know about skirts with built-in liner shorts so you can still jump for the Frisbee? And tanks and bodysuits? With Align's iconic stretch, you won't want to take it off. And with endless style options, you don't have to. Shop in-store or online at Lululemon.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This MailChimp-verific jingle is brought to you by MailChimp.
MailChimp, your marketing with AI and more. Advanced automations to connect to your store. MailChimp, your marketing and boost your clicks. Multi-channel campaigns now with SMS. That's lit.
MailChimp your marketing today with the #1 AI-powered email marketing and automation platform, Intuit MailChimp. #1 based on publicly available data on competitors' customers. Plans vary. SMS available as add-on. Visit MailChimp.com.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
Sensory deprivation. Yeah, probably. Yeah,
definitely.
I don't fully understand the reasons why people do things. But yeah, this is the brick, and now we're on the opposite side of the cell house. Like right now, we're underneath D block, where the isolation cells are for the federal prison. This is to be our emergency exit if anything happened. Right now, they're doing a lot of different historical reconstruction work. And everything else, they're making sure that the walls in this place stay upright so more guests and tourists can come through. And so, you'll see as we walk around, this place mirrors itself. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like what we walked down the steps, right, on the other side, right? And so now there's 4, these were storage units at one time, and then these were dungeon cells. But during this one, this was an active fortress, and this was just for military provisions. This would have been the military soldiers' toilet. There was a captain's and lieutenant's toilet that was further down, and it was in the actual fortress here. We've opened up the top of this thing, and we've had rangers go search through there, and they found shivs, they found commissary coins, they found a bunch of different stuff from the federal penitentiary, because this was all used for the sewer lines. The sewer would go into this larger brick tunnel and it would dump into the bay. So there was no sewage treatment plant. Even in the federal government times, there wasn't a sewage treatment plant. All that water or waste just went into the bay. Once we became a national park, we removed sewage and we bring it to a sewage treatment plant. We bring water. We've been doing that ever since 1857 when this was a fortress. So we are not connected to any kind of water source. We are not connected to power. We have to create our own power. We're off the grid. We don't donate our energy to PG&E. Okay, we create our own through solar. And right now, solar panels need to be some of them need to be fixed. So if the solar panels aren't working, we have a diesel backup generator and things for things to work out.
So is this where Sean Connery came in?
Probably. Oh, I love that movie. However, it's not accurate.
You can almost kind of see it happening here,
right? There is an area in the new underneath the new industries building wanting to film tunnels. I don't know if this is Ranger lore or not. But it was at the time of the movie that National Parks realized they're going to open this thing up because they want to see these military tunnels, right? There was at least 3 or 4. And we were able to open up one. But when this became a military prison, when this became a federal prison, they filled up all that stuff. Even the rec yard was like it seems like it was a munitions bunker at one point, and then they just put a flat surface over the top and made it the rec yard. But there were tunnels and things that would go through here.
So were there ways to get to the caves from here at one time?
There was not from here, I don't believe so. But there are. When you go walk down through here, you'll see like broken open. Like you see like fireplaces. Yeah. And then you'll see other areas where it may have some sort of water resource or something, or container of some sort. So maybe there were some things that went further on. Maybe, but I don't know. I haven't seen those the architecture and everything else. I've seen a few things, and walking around, it's obvious that there might have been tunnels to certain things, but they were all filled up due to the federal and military. Once this became a prison, they didn't want people accessing those tunnels, right? So
no prisoner coming down here could ever made it to the water.
No, I don't.
I didn't think so.
I wouldn't think so. Okay. Yeah. But you can hear the water rushing like a river down here when it's really raining down here.
Oh,
so I've got a video of it. It sounds amazing. It sounds like you go whitewater kayaking. All right, watch your head. Yeah. And so this is my thought process about infantry and infantry would have been on this side. I get a little dyslexic. Infantry would have been on this side. The reason being is because there was the steps. And again, if there was a siege, infantry would have to break these steps. Okay. Now the enemy has to get to the second floor. Now, if they get up to the second floor, the infantry have already broke the second story steps to the third level. It would take days, weeks, months to get up to the top of this place and to change that flag, if that ever happened, and it didn't. But those are the reasons for the wooden steps. The officers had different things. So there have been maybe, we'll just say 10 soldiers in each room, right? For 3 levels. This at one point, this might have been a servants' area, servants' quarters. So they'd be doing laundry and other things and whatever, cooking and I don't know, different stuff. I'm not 100% sure what all went happen here, but it was separated here by an iron gate and a wall. Yep.
I didn't think I was gonna.
Right here is the iron gate. You can see the architecture here. There was another iron gate over at that military tunnel to the new industries building. I was here when I was like 10 years old, and that tunnel that goes into the new industries building had an iron gate over it like that. I'm like, what's over there? Nothing. It's all filled up. I'm like, well, it was used for something, I'm a curious 10-year-old. Later on, the movie The Rock came. Basically, they're like, we want to film something in tunnels, right? And so they're like, well, the story goes, as I said, we'll help you out. How much do you need to finish up this tunnel? Because it'd be great if we could film through this. And so National Parks gives them a number. There's a check that's delivered, okay, and we have a tunnel, okay. So when they go in, they start looking at it. Because the stone on this island is so porous and things, and it can crumble very easily. They put gunite on the inside, kind of like a swimming pool material, right? And so they're walking through this, and they're like, "This looks too new. We can't use this." So some of the areas where they're walking through tunnels, it appears like they did some movie magic, and it looks like it's the old 1866 tunnel. So when you're in Building 64, that 1866 little tunnel that you go in, and you walk on the wood, and you see the green doors and things, and the old storage for the military. one of the scenes, it looks like they're running through that as a tunnel.
I got you.
Because it looks old enough to be tunnels, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie is not a true story.
Some reason I didn't think it was.
So, captain's quarters, lieutenant's quarters, and this is the reason I say this is because rank and privilege, right? These guys had nicer stairs, right? So these had metal stairs that went up here. Later on, they got removed. So once they made that military prison for the Pacific, they repurposed these steps and they used them from the shower room up to the cell house. So when you're walking on those metal steps, you're walking on steps that were used for this fortress. So you're walking on 1869 steps. Isn't that incredible? Officer's privy, officer's toilet. It's kind of funny. You're looking at all these different little archways. They're all, and it doesn't matter which military fortress you go to throughout the country. It's like either soldiers were very tall or they were very short. But yeah, this is the officer's toilet. And so it'd be a little more private, separated from the rest of the infantry. Yeah. Watch your heads. But yeah, this is the whole citadel. This had 4 fireplaces, and they shared, I think, the same chimney. And it was like a number 4 dice, except this building was rectangular. And the second floor probably was the majority of the entrance and exits of this building when it was a fortress. When it started becoming something different, and they realized that nobody's going to attack this place, they probably put steps and things and whatever to get into this area, I'm assuming. And then, the granite. So this is where the door must have been where the drawbridges were, and they would come down over and rest onto the granite slab up here. So this is where the entrance and exits. On the opposite side, there would be another piece of granite as well, holding up the end of that wooden drawbridge that came down over the dry moat. Man, I can't think of anything else right now to say. But
that's a lot. You said a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot of history.
I got a lot of stuff in my head.
Do you want me to take any group pictures or something?
No,
Yeah, sure.
That was so nice. You can breathe.
But originally, though, this wasn't the main concept for the prison. This wasn't the rock. Angel Island was the area that they really wanted to build a prison on. They already had an immigration station there and everything else. So Angel Island was the Ellis Island of the West Coast, and so anybody who was trying to gain citizenship and things basically had to stay on Angel Island for a while. And it wouldn't be in a spot where they could see the city. They moved around towards the back, the northwest of the island, and where you can only see Richmond. And at that time, it was just land and no city lights really or anything else. So you wouldn't see what you're missing. Or as you go in, you're like, oh, we're going over there. You're going over here, and you're gonna just view this landmass on the other side and not the city or the bay or anything, or you'll see portions of the bay, obviously. But that became a military base as well, marching grounds and things. But it's ground zero for the bubonic plague as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a threat to San Francisco, and people were jumping off ships at one time because if you were sick on a ship, you go down to people with that had plague, right? Yeah. And even if it was just the flu or sniffles, you didn't want to go down and get plague. You'd rather just jump off the ship. So some people would be coming in, as they were coming in through the Golden Gate Strait, they'd be jumping off the ship and trying to make swim to shore, or just, we don't want to be held with these individuals.
So they were the first runners.
Yeah, pretty much. So San Francisco was finding bodies on the bay, sometimes bodies within Chinatown. And so over time, it took a long time. At one point, one of the doctors that was coming in with Eastern religion beliefs. He was fighting with one of the doctors out here about like, hey, you know, we're kind of at ground zero. I don't think the deaths in the city are just because of the flu or something else. I think it's something greater. We're getting this here. You know, can you help me? So he made a makeshift lab and started studying, you know, this plague. And eventually another person came in and actually started, and he got more of the credit. But basically figured out it was this particular type of rat. Now, was it the rat? No, it was the fleas on the rat. And the fleas for this particular rat had a different digestive system than other fleas. It would, anything of its victim that would bite, it would keep some of that blood clot in its throat. And so when it bit another person, it would pass on the bubonic plague. And it was a horrible plague where, you know, things, your lymph nodes and things would swell and just burst. Horrible. Yeah, horrible death. And so San Francisco was trying to hide the fact that this plague was coming in, and they eventually solved it by actually creating federal doctors. Like, oh, no, this is a federal thing, so you can't take this body elsewhere. We're going to study it. And they eventually made a rattery as well. The same thing as Angel Island with that original physician that wanted to gain citizenship here. Really thought that, hey, if I can solve this bubonic plague problem, that maybe I could become a citizen of the United States. Crazy stuff.
Cool stuff.
So much history. I know. Yeah. But,
well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate it. Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Do we need any pictures in here before we go?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, we'll go out this side. Go out Broadway.
Oh, man.
Thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome.
People come through.
Yep.
People already here.
They're here.
Taking the tour.
Taking the tour. So they're on Broadway. Are they on Broadway or they're?
So that's Michigan, that's Broadway.
This is B block.
B block. So down here.
Oh yeah, there they are. There's the heads. 152 and 150.
I still need to move the guitar over. That was Clarence's though.
Yeah. So which one was he in?
So he was in 152, but they've got the guitar in their own cell. Should be over here on this cell. They've got the guitar in John's.
Which hole did you crawl through?
John's. That's the one that I went through.
You crawled through that?
I did.
He has a video of it.
Not sure I could do it today. Put it on a little bit more.
Yeah, especially after that steak dinner, huh? Last night.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to go make sure the sign's out. And I'll
Okay,
get
cool.
back inside the shop.
We're on the way right now. A lot of history here. A lot of family history.
That's crazy.
It is.
This is your family history.
Yes. Believe it or not, this
very
is
bizarre.
How strange that kind of tied to it, you know. I mean, the England family, all my grandmother, grandfather, you know, this is just part of us now.
I know, it's crazy. Absolutely nuts.
As nice as it is, I can understand why they didn't want to stay. I mean, when you look at those cells, I wouldn't want to stay in those cells.
They're tiny.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it's super small.
And I can tell you, John was already planning when he got here.
I'm sure.
Day one.
Yeah, I'd rather not be alive if I had to stay in there for the whole life.
No.
We talked about this before, but Frank Moore said he wasn't escaping Alcatraz; he was escaping going back to Louisiana.
Exactly.
It's like,
And the same thing for the brothers. Whitey said that they were not escaping Alcatraz; they were escaping Alabama because they feared going back to Alabama.
Yeah.
They knew what was waiting for them.
Oh no, yeah, they were like pitchforks and
you know,
torches for them.
When they threatened the three brothers that if you ever come back to Alabama, you will never leave alive. Well, they proved it true with Alfred. You know, Alfred never left that prison alive. So what their threats really came true.
So that's the end of the dungeon tour, which I found it was really, really fascinating historically and just creepy. Had no idea how much history was underneath there on that island. All the things, the whole thing about the bubonic plague and learning about it wasn't the actual rats, but it was the fleas from the rats. It's just crazy stuff. And the one thing that we couldn't really show you is when they locked us in the dungeon and they turned off the lights for like about 30 seconds. You could hear your heartbeat, but you couldn't see anything. I mean, your eyes sort of adjusted, but you could see outlines of things, but it was really creepy. But so that's the end of the dungeon tour. Next week, we're going to continue on at Alcatraz, where you'll see more book signings, more crowd interaction, some fascinating guests on the show, people from around the world. So please stay tuned and see you next week.